Hello, my friends. Welcome to another video. This video is actually the one I intended to make last week, but I wanted a chance to get all of my facts together, make sure that what my knowledge was kind of up to date as technology changes every day. So yeah, but thank you for allowing me that time to just kind of chill last week and vent to you and give you my woes. It was very therapeutic. But anyway, as you saw by the title, and I'm sure you've been seeing all over the place online, folks are getting hit left and right with copyright stuff, and everyone knows the reason for that is AI. Because I'm heavily ingrained in AI, both in my personal life use and my day-to-day work activities, I thought I would share with you my understanding and knowledge of the back-end process and what has changed and why we're seeing so much more of this. Characters are one of the most protected forms of intellectual property, and companies are investing heavily in technology for this. And it's not just the companies that we all kind of expect it from, as far as Disney and Sanrio and Universal. Other companies are also leaning heavily into this because the technology is becoming less and less costly for them, and they're able to get much more bang for the buck than they used to. First, let's talk a little bit about intellectual property, copyright, and fan art. Actually, no. Rewind. First, let's talk disclaimer. I am not a professional anything. I am just sharing with you what my knowledge is of this subject because I feel like I get to peek behind the curtain a little bit. I am not a copyright attorney. I am not any of those things. I am just sharing what I know. All right, now that we've got disclaimers out of the way, we can start talking about copyright, intellectual property, and fan art. Like a lot of things, copyright law and protection of intellectual property were put in place for good reason. It was to protect people who had an idea from others who wanted to capitalize on it. I'm not going to get into the detail of copyright law specifically, all the definitions and legal terms and all that kind of thing. I just want to point out a few things that I think are important to know, especially when it comes to fan art, which I think is what a lot of us categorize what we do as. Now, fan art started literally as that. You saw a character you loved, you enjoyed, you wanted to draw it, crochet it, cross stitch it, whatever it may be. And that's fine. And it always has been fine, and it always will be fine. Where it starts to bleed over the line is whether or not you share that. And I don't just mean like, hey, look what I made. I mean like giving it to someone as a gift. If you're giving what you've created to someone as a gift, technically that's not okay. But if you have a family member that you're gifting this thing to that's going to rat you out, then I wouldn't give them a gift anyway, so you're probably fine. So even if you are giving it away like a free pattern, that's technically not considered okay, and it gets even worse when you're trying to sell it and make money from it. And the thing about copyright and all of the laws is that if you pushed it far enough to where it got to court, they just use something called reasonable recognition. Now, there's a lot of different terms for this out there, so maybe I'm not using the right one. It's the one that I kind of have in my head. But basically what that means is that any Joe Schmo on the street would recognize your thing, whatever you've created, as the protected property. So if there were a crochet item you created that resembled Pikachu and you took it to a court of law and they popped up a picture of Pikachu and people were like, yeah, that's that thing, you're toast. Let's talk a little bit about how this has evolved over the years. So originally, when the internet was born and things were put out onto the internet, the only things that could really be scanned were things like text and metadata. Metadata is just little bits and pieces and tags that are attached automatically to things you create. Some examples of that will be like if you took a photo somewhere or you created a document, the date is stored, that's metadata. Sometimes the location, your city, whatever it may be. There's a lot of metadata that gets created behind the scenes automatically. So that stuff has always been able to be tracked, as well as whatever text was inputted. So a lot of the original scans just looked for keywords, and that's why you could get away with, if you created something that looked like Pikachu, calling it like Zap Mouse or whatever. Those keywords would not come up. Eventually, there started to be a little bit more of association items being tracked. So things like mouse might come up, or correlation with lightning and zap and mouse. could have raised flags, but it just wasn't something that people were heavily investing in because it's a lot of work for someone to then go double check, was this really a thing? Then technology stepped it up a notch and images were now readable and recognizable. What ended up happening is other companies started to create ways to capitalize on this. So there are now brand protection services. Some may be a service that is sold to other companies and they do the checks and all of the scans and all of the work. Other companies create their own. I'm sure someone like Disney has their own. They may have their own and sub it out to someone as a double check. These brand protection companies can scan anything from Etsy, Shopify, personal websites, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, you name it. If it's on the internet, it's scannable. Even your Google search results. These scans can run billions of bits of information through them in a matter of seconds, and these scans can run continuously. Your chances of getting caught if you are selling something with intellectual property increases with time, and it also increases where you're selling these things. So a quick example would be if you're at a craft market in your local city. The chances of someone spotting something that you're selling at your local craft market as being something copyrighted and having an issue with it are pretty low. It's common that people will sell fan art at cons, so there's a little bit more of an open eye there and your risk factor increases. If you sell online on your own website, then your risk increases quite a bit because now you are on the internet and you are susceptible to those brand protection scans. If you sell through a platform like Shopify or Etsy, then you can increase that even more because those companies have their own brand protection scans in place. So you're not only being scanned by Etsy's scans or Shopify scans, but you're also being hit by those brand protection scans as well. The thing about the platforms like Etsy and Shopify is that they put themselves at risk if they don't take action immediately. So they are on the lookout, and while they don't necessarily protect us from other AI issues that are happening out there, if they receive a notice of a possible copyright infringement, they are going to take action immediately. And that's quite understandable because if you think about it, you wouldn't want them to not take action if it wasn't you, because if they don't take action and a site like Etsy or Shopify gets shut down because of too many copyright issues, think of how many small businesses that would affect. I'm not necessarily saying that their process is great in notification or the actions that they take are right or wrong. I'm just saying that it's understandable that they need to take action to protect their own platform and everybody on it. All right, we've talked about the fact that these scans are being done. Let's get into a little bit of the detail as far as how these scans are being done, how AI is being used, and why you're seeing more flagged accounts. A little bit of a disclaimer here. Again, all of these brand protection services do things a little differently. I am just giving a broad overview of a way to kind of generalize this thinking to try to help everybody get the idea of what's happening. So this could be different depending on what company did scans and all that sort of thing. This is just what I understand of the process and how the general idea works. You can think of it as every bit of information going through three big funnels. The first funnel is a general sweep that occurs. It looks at all of the listings and looks for those keywords. Any images that flag could be based off shape. It could be based off color. It could be based off those keywords. There's so many things involved that it could be. But basically what it does is it grabs that group of things. So it tags and bags them. It says, I think that's a Pikachu. I think that's a Gengar, and it grabs them and it flags them. This is part of how it's always been done. I think where we are seeing more of these things coming through is because of the AI's evolution. So that second funnel is a confidence score. Now you can use AI to check AI. So what'll end up happening, and we use this every day where I work, is you can have AI return to you a confidence score. So it can then look at this grouping. It can grab that listing that it thought was Pikachu, and it can say, I am within X amount of certainty that that is Pikachu. So what happens is these companies will set up a threshold. So AI is really good these days. I don't know what the threshold is. I'm making it up for purposes of this discussion, but let's say it's 90%. Anything that is 90% or more goes through that funnel and sends an automatic notification. Nobody has to look at it. Nobody has to check anything. It automatically has already grabbed all of the information on that listing. If it's on Etsy, let's say, then Etsy gets a notification for a takedown. You need to take down that listing right away. You are at risk for copyright issues. Etsy will do that. They will take that listing down and they will notify the seller that something's gone awry. If it was on your personal website, same kind of thing. That automatic process is going to go find out who owns that domain, who owns the website, send the notification for the takedown. There may be a follow-up after that. I don't know what the rest of their process is. That's going to be, all the detail that I do not have, and that varies by company. But basically my point is that it's automatic. If for some reason it did not hit that threshold, that new kind of confidence score, and AI was like, I'm 80% sure this could be a Pikachu, and their threshold was set at 90, then it goes into a bucket for human review. So at that point, that third funnel is the human. That person is going to take that group of listings, and any of them that they make the determination are indeed an issue for copyright gets passed through that funnel, and that automated process fires again, and those takedown notifications go out. One thing I will mention that is coming on the horizon, I don't quite think it's been implemented yet, is the review and connection of the dots. And what I mean by that is, let's say you go to market and you don't sell online at all. You only sell in markets, and you have a beautiful spread of Pokemon. You take a picture of that and you post it to your social media. I'm at the such and such craft show. Look what I'm selling. It's probably getting flagged currently. Whether or not they have a process established for takedown when you are selling in person, I don't know. That doesn't mean that you couldn't get a letter saying that they spotted something that could be possible copyright infringement. I do see that becoming something that will be a thing. I don't think it is yet, but the technology is there and those images are caught and are flagged at this time. So just something important to know. All of this being said, what can we do about it? Not a heck of a lot. Unless you want to try to change the law. The biggest thing that you can do is just be careful. Know your risks, know your audience. One little thing I will mention is that you can do a little research for yourself and checking copyright laws. Certain things expire after a given time, or maybe certain versions of characters are protected where others are not. So if you're really passionate about a character and you want to look into the detail on that, you're obviously welcome to do that. What you do is up to you. All right, let's get into this week's makes. Again, because I recorded this once, but something happened. Anyway, this week I wanted to try to use that Target yarn that I got, the Bernat Ethereal Stripes. And I'm starting to learn that maybe that kind of yarn is not great for me. But let's first talk about what I started with. So I started with the Springtime color, I want to say it's called. I'll put the name of it if it's wrong. But I'm a center pull girly, and my original intention was to pull from the center and just crochet whatever it was going to be. But I didn't like the way the center looked. I pulled it out and I cut it off. I eventually cut it off and started somewhere else because this looked really dingy to me. I don't know if it'll come up on camera, but it just looked dirty. It's the yellow tone blending into the blue. And then let me see if I can find it. There were areas where there were splotches. I don't know if it's on this exact piece, but there were areas where there were splotches of the pink color and it looked unintentional. They looked like it got put away wet or something. So I really started off on the bad foot with that, but I was like, no, let me just get to the point of a color that I like. Maybe this could be a mushroom top or something later. I'll put it in my scrap bin. We'll circle back to that, or it's just waste. But I decided I wanted to make a couple of bunnies. I mentioned this before. I got the Beans the Bunny pattern from Snuggle Beans Crochet, the little splooting bunny, and I had bought some gray that I was going to use, and then I wanted to use that Springtime color. So let me show you my Beans the Bunny in that color. He came out cute in the long run. He's not my favorite, but I used that beginning color, which is that yellow with blue going into a green. And then I ended up cutting segments of the yarn because I could not handle it. If I would have done from that piece that I started happy with, through, this would have been yellow, this would have been yellow, this would have been, like, most of the skein was that same kind of blend, and it had splotches of pink. So I was really annoyed by that. So what I ended up doing was just cutting it off. I went to the next color, which was blue for the head. I then took the pink that kind of has a little bit of purple starting in it. And then I went with purple for the body. But yeah, I basically cut it into multiple skeins because I just couldn't handle the way that it was blending. But he's cute. 6.5 millimeter hook, the Bernat Ethereal Stripes, 35 millimeter hand painted eyes. I made a bunch of blues and greens and golds and sets of eyes so that I could just have them at the ready for these makes. This is, I want to say, a 14 millimeter safety nose yarn under for all of these, and then I used the Michael's fur. He's got quite the badonkadonk tail. It is ginormous because I left it 3-stranded. I was like, I'm not bothering pulling it apart. So it's a little bit big for him, but I like a big booty. So he's cute. He will do fine. I think I'm gonna sell him or display him positioned upright versus the splooting. I just think he looks way cuter. I feel like the way I sewed his head on like 2 or 3 times because I just could not get this pivot point right, and it annoyed me. So I am gonna display him sitting up. The second one I was more happy with. I did in more traditional colors. This is the gray, and I think he looks way cuter splooting than the other one did. This is Premier Chenille Basics Brights. The white, I believe, is Bernat Baby Blanket on both of these BT dubs. Same eyes, same nose, same yarn under, tail, all that good stuff. But this one I really like. But I only had 2 bunnies on my list, so I decided to move into some of that other area that I had and do some cats. I already had those chunky cats that I did, but I really wanted to jump back into a pattern that I've only done once, which is the Mom Stitchetti Sitting Kitty. I liked the outcome, but that one was hard for me because I had a really bad skein of Bernat. So I wanted to give that another shot. So I did that, and this time I did a tuxedo cat. I love this pattern because it's pretty simple, but it looks really good. And I gave him, this guy's got 30 millimeter eyes, same nose as the bunnies. I did this in Bernat and Bernat Baby. This was with a 7 millimeter hook because this Bernat is a little bit of that stiffer Bernat. It wasn't as bad as the skein before, but it is a stiffer Bernat, so I used that for this. And then I wanted to make one more of this guy, but I decided to try a different yarn. I have had a few skeins of Premier Parfait Plush, but I haven't really gotten to jump into them. Part of me is scared too because I'm afraid I'm gonna want it and want more of it. And like, I'm trying to keep the yarn brands to a minimum. I already told Karen from Yarn and Whimsy that she's killing me because every time I watch one of her videos, I open up her tab for Elise Voluto and want to go in there and order at least $100 of yarn so I can have free shipping. I have refrained so far, but I'm gonna break soon. I know it. Anyway, back to Premier Parfait Blush. I decided to make an all black one. This guy is awesome. He is so soft. Part of me does not want to sell him. I gave him 35 millimeter eyes because I love the big eyes on these guys, and he's a little bit bigger. Let me put these guys side by side. He's not super huge difference, but a little bit. Anyway, gave him 35 millimeter eyes, same nose. This one I did 7 millimeter hook also, yarn under also, and he really made me want to buy more Premier Parfait Plush, especially for the end feel of this compared to the Bernat. The Bernat's okay. I mean, it's the Huge and the Premier Basics, but this is so soft. Ugh. Anyway. So that was done. I only had 2 of those on my list. That is checked off. And then I thought I should probably get into some minis. Now, normally I make 10 of each mini at a time, but the minis do bug my hands and I am not getting as much done as I would like to. So I decided to do 5, and I did the mini rats. For that, I use the QB Crochet No Sew Baby Rat pattern. So I've got 5 that I made. This is made with Bernat Velvet, 4mm hook. I do not do anything in the round on these guys. I just do the gray all the way to the end. I sit down with the pink kind of color, and I will just make all of the tails, all of the ears, and then I will go and I will, embroider the nose, add the ears, and add the tail, and then tuck everything in and whatnot. I decided to try to embroider the eyes on these guys, and I'm not sure if I like it or not. In this lighting, I don't like it. I usually glue on little cabochon eyes, but I was like, well, maybe it's faster to embroider and maybe that's a little bit better. But this gray is so dark that I don't know if you can barely see the eye. And it's such a tiny, like I can only do 1 stitch. So yeah, I might go back and glue eyeballs on these guys. But I got these 5 made as well. And that's it. Those are my makes for the week. I really do hope that the information I gave on the AI stuff helps. One other thing I will say about AI is that, like any other tool, can be used for good or evil. I think that if you're someone who really dislikes AI and doesn't want to use it, that is your prerogative, obviously. I would recommend at least kind of playing with it and understanding, not in the hopes that you will like using it and continue using it, but I feel, like know thy enemy. If it's something that you're not happy with, at least get a basic understanding of it because it is not going anywhere. Everybody is heavily investing in this technology. It is all the focus of all the large corporations. I work for a consulting company and we are getting bombarded with people who want this technology, and the people who develop this technology are adding more to it every day. So the issues that we see, the things that are challenges, are only going to grow from there. So it's helpful to have an understanding, and that's why I did this. In case you are someone who is not, aware of what's happening, I wanted to share at least what I have, and I will continue to do so as long as I'm in that industry. But I do hope it helped. If you have not already subscribed, I hope you'll consider subscribing. Give the video a thumbs up if it did help. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.